Thank you. Good morning. I would like to present a quick perspective of IBM's point of view regarding economic vitality and the challenges facing governments. So as a general statement, we all realize that the world is changing in front of us. That many people, it's projected that urbanization, the people living in cities, will increase to nearly 70% within the next 30 years, adding a lot of challenges for regions to deal with. The amount of the challenges with education and skill levels is in front of us. There's forecasted to be a great skills shortage, yet we have significant unemployment relative to our young people. And then the amount of devices that are connected to the internet are just growing every day. And the challenges to take advantage of that data is in front of us. So from a perspective of governments, their ability to change and to keep pace with that change is very significant. You know, citizens are expecting much more of a consumer experience. The tax and spend models really don't apply too much. They're not as applicable these days. Information sharing among agencies with the population is continuing to increase. And as you know, the threat of security and fraud is always in front of us. And so for governments to really provide that competitive advantage, it's a matter of how do the leaders adapt. You know, leaders within government have to drive business outcomes using analytics, ensuring that they're taking advantage of the data that's in front of them. Time value of data is very important. It's the need to capture that on a near-time or real-time basis, which will then create a speed to action so that governments can act much more quickly. And the critical aspect of innovating, you know, leveraging the data so that you're really predicting and adapting your approaches of government and how you address your citizenry. So from a government perspective, I think it's most important to leverage all the multiple data sources that you can, use those predictive algorithms because that's what will help differentiate your organization to be much more engage with your citizenry, engage in a much more proactive basis, and discover those insights that those analytics bring you as a government entity. So as discussed earlier, the Internet of Things is a real opportunity for governments to change. You've had makers of things, so to speak, leveraging the data from the sensors out there. You've had operators like transportation organizations, et cetera, leveraging that. But for governments, it's really now, can you create new value based upon these Internet of Things capability? And as I said here, anything that is connected to the internet can be hacked, and everything is being connected to the internet. So data security, the security is just going to be a critical component as governments continue to move forward. The other perspective we're seeing is this U-shaped government is becoming essential. It's not just the top-down approach with governments supplying data to the citizenry. It's the side-to-side transfer of information from citizens to citizens, them sharing perspectives to one another, providing self-help to one another, and then the bottoms-up approach of data, citizenry providing that insights to government. And so as governments adapt their models, that kind of a consistent perspective using those three aspects is a critical component. You know, the other thing that we see with the consumerization is that governments need to pursue this on a personal level. It really is how do you create your interactions with your citizenry on a person-to-person basis. Do you know who they are? Do you know what they're trying to do? Do you know where they live? And have it be citizen-centered and collaborative all at the same time. So economic vitality from a perspective of where we are now, you know, the industrial revolution was driven by steam engines in the first phase, and from a second perspective, it was now the electrical power changing the way that economies were being driven. Then you had the industrial revolution, that third phase really all driven by technology, and now we've entered this fourth industrial revolution phase where it's the combination of the Internet of Devices, the mobility, et cetera, really driving that new level of economic vitality. And the challenge with that always is the complexity level has increased because of that. So if you think about governments and where they need to be, it's important for governments to focus on citizen-centric services, ensuring that we're adapting it from a citizen perspective, that governments are creating an educational environment for not just as a student per se, but also on a lifelong learning perspective, and as a country, a region, being cognizant of the natural resource management, taking advantage of your resources, being sensitive to maintaining them and safeguarding them. All of that is wrapped into creating a community that's very livable and enjoyable, but also economically vibrant. So the next phase here, or the question would be, how do our cities, our regions, et cetera, create a job-creating environment? How do you maintain that innovation? And so as from a quote here that says, what mattered most over the past 25 years was who could make things the cheapest, but that paradigm is shifting, and now what's matters most is how we are the smartest. And if you apply that to kind of that data-driven economy, we have 4 perspectives that I'll present to you as in some examples. It's how are you connected and open as a government? Are you applying it in a simple and intelligent way? Are you agile and scalable? And are you innovative and reimagined? And so if you use the French Riviera region, they viewed their opportunity to create a strong, economically viable region by improving their transportation, being much more aware of what's happening with their air pollution, and they created much more of an environment where they leveraged the data sensors across their region so that it was a much more desirable place for business to establish their corporations, and also from a livability perspective. If you take a look at being simple and intelligent, here's one of the largest public institutions at the United Kingdom at their university level. They were having significant dropout relative to students who weren't keeping up with the educational model. And so they were concerned about their viability in maintaining and keeping those students. Costs were going up. And so they looked at the data to provide insights on how should we adapt our teaching methods so that the students will stay at the university longer. And this environment is, again, taking the data, applying analytics, and doing it in a real-time basis to keep the students enrolled in the university. Another example from an agile and scalable is really the automation of drug delivery in Africa. So this was an environment that was very paper-based. It was not a challenge with the availability of drugs. It was getting it to the last kilometer in delivery relative to the drugs being delivered. And so they just implemented mobile technology, did barcode scanning, and significantly improved not only the delivery aspects, but also the predictive characteristics of when they needed to have drugs in a certain region based upon the data that they saw. And lastly, the example of innovative and reimagined. There's a renewed effort in looking at our waste management. So instead of landfills being filled with resources that are putting tax in that environment, the focus now is to create a brand new environment of plant infrastructure that essentially creates a zero waste. And so we have opportunities that this technology is funded by private institutions because it's economically profitable. And in the end, you create jobs because of the analytics that are being applied to this new environment. IBM is a technology provider relative to this, and this is gaining increased interest as we pursue here. So to wrap things up, productivity isn't everything, but in the long run, it's almost everything. Global economies are challenged. We all see that, and governments are necessary to engage with their citizenry, create opportunities for increased efficiencies, improve productivity. Leaders are the ones who must deliver this message and help the governments proceed in this way. And from attracting businesses and talent, creating an environment where educational systems are very supportive of this so that the strong economy that a region can provide is in place. And with that, thank you.